dodging most of the enemies. When you get to the end, it's time for the boss battle. This boss is really tricky to contend with because he can do a lot of damage and can be hard to avoid. You have to wait for the monster to fully form, in which case you can deliver one hit to it and then quickly run to the opposite side of the screen. Because when he punches the ground, he causes a large section of the bridge that he's standing on to disappear, in which case he then falls into the lava. He then comes back up from the top, reforms, and does the same thing. As long as you move quickly, the spikes falling from the ceiling aren't really the problem, as long as you can keep your speed fast enough so you can get to that opposite side and don't end up falling into the lava pit. Once in a while, you may be able to get lucky enough to get 2 hits on him, but usually it's not worth that extra bit of effort, and it's just best to do 1 hit, run away, and then wait for it to continue. This battle will take some time, but once you get used to just hitting once and running away, it shouldn't be too much trouble. Chapter 7 is the final full stage of the game. Chapter 8 is actually just the final boss battle. During this segment, we're going to have some long jumps to make from wall to wall as you're working your way between platforms. We once again have some flying enemies as well as slow-moving enemies, but at this point you should be well versed in taking those out. The biggest annoyance can be when you're working your way up on platforms and one of those birds tries to get in your way. In this segment, we have some arrows that are going to be blasted towards you coming up from the right side. Also, whenever you're in the non-green sections of the wall, you end up getting pushed backwards, so it's going to take a little bit of extra effort to get your way through the section. Thankfully though, the arrows that do come out, even if they hit you, they don't do too much damage, and a lot of them will usually be in sections that you're actually not even in. In section 2, we have some spikes that are going to jet out of the walls, so you have to take your time, jump against the wall, and jump off quickly enough in between the times where the spikes are up. In the next section, after we jump up the wall, we now have some disappearing blocks for the first time. They come out of the walls, and after a couple of seconds they'll jet back into the wall, so you have to quickly move along them, and don't jump prematurely or too late. During this section, just be careful for when you decide to make your far jump to the left. When you fall down in between the two columns, you must hold on to the right button so you can hit the wall and make it across that long gap to the left. In this area, you're pretty much going to be wanting to use that shield as much as you can while you're running over the large amount of spikes. If you don't do so, you're going to have to take your time and get enough speed so you can get to a platform before the spikes end up popping back out of the ground. Wait for them to retract, and then continue moving. Here, drop down and hit the left wall and jump far to the right, and try to get up to the right side quickly enough so you don't have to wait for the spikes to come back out again. You can see just how great the invulnerability is really to use. After you make one or two more jumps along some disappearing blocks, it's time for the boss battle. This boss is going to be made really easy for me. I'm going to use my invulnerability. If you don't have that though, you're going to have to get used to his two shots that he likes to throw out, and then he'll throw his head off in your direction. Try to stay close to him in between his shots so you can deliver some hits to him. The most annoying thing is he does have a homing projectile that likes to keep moving along the screen until it finally runs into you. That's why I really recommend having the shield available for this battle. Now it's time for the final boss. Stand in about the middle of the room and he'll charge forward with his sword. Jump just as he's about to get close to you so you can jump over the fire that spurts out against the ground. After he gets done with that and pulls his sword back up, run away from him just a little bit and wait for him to do a large strike again. If you do end up getting hit by his sword, it doesn't do a whole lot of damage, neither does the fire that comes out of the ground, but you want to make sure you have some health left because we have another boss right after this one. The true form of the final boss is a real pain to deal with. He floats along the top and you're going to have to time your jumps at first real high when he comes down just low enough so you can actually hit him with your sword. After a few projectiles, which are pretty easy to dodge, he'll shoot out some lightning bolts. Keep attacking him as much as possible while he's flying in the air, because when he comes down he's a lot harder to dodge. He'll repeat the same pattern though of moving back and forth, a few projectiles, and then lightning bolts. Try to do your best to stay out of the range of those lightning bolt hits. Sometimes getting the timing down of actually being able to hit him is the hardest part about this battle. Try to make sure you have as much health as possible left after that first battle so that you can take some hits from the projectiles and lightning bolts during this section. Once you deliver the final hit, you can sit back and enjoy the ending. While this version of Ninja Gaiden was released only in Europe for the Sega Master System, it was still developed by the original creators Tecmo and is a very good addition to the Ninja Gaiden series. It's a real shame that people in North America never got a chance to enjoy this game for the Master System itself. It would have been a great game to be ported over to the Game Gear. We did get, of course, a Ninja Gaiden game for Game Gear, but it was another original title, developed that time by Sega. And with our Presented by Sega screen, that's going to wrap up this edition of Play It Through. I'd like to thank you for watching, and of course, I hope you enjoyed.